All right, hey guys. I'm going to try to keep this short and sweet, so let's get it going. So to kick things off, we're going to talk about the new league and how it's going to affect our club moving forward. We've been a part of the Washington Inland Soccer League. Well, I guess over the summer that a majority of the clubs decided to leave that league for a brand new league, which is the Eastern Washington Soccer League. I think it has mainly to do with the fact that WISL was based out of Tequila, Washington, so it doesn't really serve the east side of Washington State and, Idaho. So that's the main reason. It is kind of nice because one difference is they're going to use a tiered system. So if any team is like winning a lot, then they'll get promoted up to a higher level, and kids from the lower division or tier can play up. However, the kids that have been promoted and are playing on a select team are not allowed to go backwards, which is nice. So we have that to look forward to. Many of you are probably curious about why we've decided to abandon Team Snap. Well, obvious one of the reasons is it's just an extra cost. But the big thing is GOT Sport runs everything, or EWSL runs everything through GOT Sport. So we can easily get to our player cards to print up for games and tournaments. We can communicate through it as a team. And even the registration is done through GOT Sport. It's just all in there, and we like to keep it all in one app as much as possible. So we're just getting rid of Team Snap for that reason. So on the back of that, I really have only one big favor to ask the parents that would help us out tremendously, and that is to please mark accept and decline and pending on every training and every game ahead of time, just so we know how to plan. So I do plan training sessions ahead of time, or I used to, and like what activities and drills that we'd be doing based on the numbers and available equipment. So it helps me a ton if I know how many players are coming so I can plan accordingly. In the past, I've set up more than what was needed or didn't have enough because I was expecting a different number than what actually showed up. So, and a lot of what we're doing too is we're combining with the 2013, so I just have to know these things ahead of time. So if you guys could just please refrain from using the team chat to say that you're coming and then not mark it in the calendar or in the schedule, because then I'm having to bounce back and forth between the two. Really, the most efficient way for me to keep track of these things is just to look at the schedule. And then if there's anything weird or wonky, or you're in the maybe category and then you're saying this is why, totally understand if you put that in the team chat, right? Let's see. So, forfeit rule. Like it says on here, if a team is unable to reschedule and is unable to fulfill the minimum amount of players to proceed with a game, they'll be forced to forfeit that game. So what happens is the league will fine us pretty hefty for that, okay? And sometimes it's an unavoidable thing. It does happen. It's, the Spokane teams have bailed on us, and it's a once-in-a-while thing, and it might have been because they had a tournament and they just couldn't get it rescheduled for whatever reason, okay? But there have been other times where we just had a game that was, it was about a 4-hour drive away, and there were people saying, no, they just didn't want to do that. Well, you signed up for the team. So if you're one of the people that actually caused us to forfeit, you're also part of the people responsible for paying that fine. All right. Pretty straightforward. Trace. This is awesome. So, we're going to be assigning a trace camera to each travel team. It's super exciting because we can go back and watch all the game footage from a bird's eye view. You also have the ability to focus on your own kid if you want to get a subscription. So it'll mark the kid with a digital circle or ring or kind of a heads up thing above their head. You can kind of see how they're doing through the whole game. It's really cool because you get the player data too, for shots, passes, tackles. Yeah, I think those are really the big ones. And then you also get a heat map, so you can see everywhere they've been on the field throughout the game. So that's a really, really great tool for just personal development. And also, you can save the clips and highlights. Trace also creates highlights automatically for each player. So if you don't want to watch the whole game, you just want to see your kid and, their moments, totally achievable, right? So it's a great tool to have if you're looking for getting onto high school or onto a college team, I guess. If any of your girls want to go that route, you have it. You have some good clips, from youth sports. So pretty cool. All right, and the last thing is I've had a couple of conversations about the possibility of getting another tournament in. A lot of us in the club just generally feel that starting the season with a tournament it just feels really backwards. And, part of the registration goes to covering one tournament, and it just so happens to be the one in Sandpoint, which is, this weekend. So I think it's a disservice to the kids because they're just coming off a summer break and they're knocking off the rust and trying to get back into soccer shape. It's just tough. And so I looked forward. I've been looking around for other tournaments that may be at the end of the season. Unfortunately, nothing up here because it just gets too cold outdoors is going to be available. It starts getting into indoor tournament territory, and that's just not where we're at. So the furthest one out is in the I think it's the first week of October, and it is also the closest as well in distance. So it's in Kalispell, Montana. It's about a 5.5 hour drive. Clearly, this is optional for everybody. We don't have to do this. That being said, I realistically don't see our whole team signing up to do it, and that's totally fine. But if we can get a handful, like 7 or 8 players to commit, then the Moscow Surf team is really dying to get into a tournament because they have a real predicament with numbers. They have 20. That team that we played was 2012s, 2011s, 2013s, and 2014s mixed. It sounds like they have a good handful of 12s and 13s, which would be perfect. They could fill out the rest of the roster, and if that's something that anybody in this team is interested in doing, if you could just confirm as soon as you possibly can, so I can let Corey, the surf coach, know. And we also have to get our game that weekend rescheduled as well, so it's just a whole thing. All right, that's about all I got to cover. I'm going to be putting in the chat some of the expectations of spectators as well as the referee abuse policy stuff, and that's honestly it's stuff that I'm not too concerned about this team with. It's never been in the history of this team. So but yeah, it's always good to look at it. All right, thanks guys.